Guys, so I hope your prelims went well, and I'll be discussing with you the economy question set that we have. And I've given an interview very recently in 2025 CSE, also in 2023 CSE. So let's begin with discussing the economy set of questions that are there, right? So the first question is, consider the following statement with reference to Sagarmala program of Government of India. The Sagarmala program seeks to achieve port-led economic growth through cost-effective and sustainable coastal infrastructure, right? The second question. So whenever you're reading an exam as well, this is a new pattern of question, right? So whenever you're reading an examination also, start with chronological fashion itself. The success of Sagarmala program is reflected in significant growth in coastal and inland waterway shipping, along with improved global port ranking, right? This is also pretty much true. First statement is true, second statement is true. Third statement, Sagarmala 2.0 aims to position India as a global maritime innovation hub, aligned with Atmanirbhar Bharat and Viksit Bharat Vision 2027, right? So now if you're coming to this, right? So this form of question is very new for UPSC. UPSC hasn't done this before, but this time they have went ahead and did this form of representation of the question. So now let's read it one by one, because based on these, we are supposed to mark this answer over here. So the question here is, statement 2 validates the effectiveness of strategies envisioned in statement 1. So read statement 1 first. The Sagarmala program seeks to achieve port-led economic growth, right? Sagarmala is aimed for that. Sagarmala project, Bharatmala project. So all these are the things that we study in our economy classes and infrastructure syllabus. Sagarmala project aims to achieve port-led economic growth. They want to create hubs where porting activity, inland ports, and all the infrastructure that is related to port come at one place, right? So this is true. Now statement 1, and so now we need to validate the success of Sagarmala program is reflected in significant growth in coastal and inland water shipping, right? So this is what has been asked here. So statement 2 validates the effectiveness of strategies envisioned in statement 1, which is precisely what is mentioned here. The success of Sagarmala program is reflected in significant growth in coastal. There have been significant growth in coastal. If you see different porting activity, shipping activities, example in Uttar Pradesh, in West Bengal, the National Waterway 1, significant development has happened. So we can comfortably say that the statement is correct. Now statement 3. Statement 3 extends the objective of statement 1 by embarking them into future-oriented innovation framework, right? So this is all about statement 1 extending the vision of statement 2, 3 extending the vision of statement 1. Now Sagarmala 2.0 aims to position India as a global maritime innovation hub, aligning with Atmanirbhar Bharat and Viksit Bharat Vision 2047. Here the same thing. It is just expanding the vision by 2.0. It just means we'll do much more effectively what we have already done in the existing Sagarmala scheme. Therefore, the correct answer here would be 1, correct. Statement 2 is correct. Now come to statement 3. Statement 1 contradicts statement 3. Sagarmala program seeks to achieve port-led economic growth. Does statement 1 contradict Sagarmala 2.0? Port-led development, maritime innovation hub. It nowhere contradicts what is written in statement 3. Rather, it is a step ahead. Statement 3 is one step ahead of what we have already achieved in the past, right? So it is in no way contradicting what is already written in statement 3. So we consider this as wrong. So the correct answer here will be B, 1 and 2 only correct. So this is a standard question from infrastructure structure topic of economy, and this structure of question is new to UPSC. This is new to UPSC, and many of the people would have felt a little bit astonishing to see this, but it was a very simple question, blank English, which can be easily solved by that. Now coming to the 34th question in the question paper and of set D, and the 34th question and our second question here. In what ways does Vizhinjam International Seaport represent a structural shift in India's maritime trade and logistic policy. Right? This is very particular to Vizhinjam port, which is there in Trivandrum, Kerala. Right? So by functioning exclusively as a domestic cargo hub. So whenever this word exclusively comes, your alarm bell should ring that, okay, if India is constructing a port, and that too Vizhinjam port was very much in news in the year 23, 24, 25, would it be exclusively a domestic port? So this should come. To reduce the reliance on coastal shipping and eliminate the need for foreign collaborations. This is absolutely incorrect statement. This is for foreign cargo shipment. India used to ship cargo from Colombo, the heavy load containers, which used to come to Colombo and then offload, and then Indian ports used to do not have carrying capacity, so they used to unload there and then move to Indian ports by smaller boats. Right? Now, by focusing primarily on passenger cruise tourism, heritage shipping, to increase Kerala's profile as a maritime heritage destination. Again, this is not the primary motive. Focus primarily on passenger cruise tourism and heritage shipping to increase Kerala's profile as a maritime heritage destination is not the primary focus, right? So again, we can eliminate this by leveraging its natural depth. So Vizhinjam port has a natural depth of 18 meters. This is very good natural depth. Otherwise, in Indian other ports like Kandla port or Mundra port, we need dredging activity that needs to be done. But due to the natural deep draft, it is a very strategic location that it comes. Right? Strategic location to reduce dependency on foreign transshipment ports, enhance revenue retention, and reposition India as a regional maritime trade. So now what used to happen is that Colombo used to act as a port, and all the connectivity used to happen from Colombo ports, right? Now what will happen is that with coming of Vizhinjam port here, India will become a maritime hub. So that is what was envisioned with Vizhinjam port. So the correct answer for this would be D, as we have solved this. And yeah, so this was again a very basic question from newspaper, current affairs, and all. So this could be easily solved by using this elimination technique that I've mentioned here. Now coming to the 39th question and a third question in set D. So 39th question in set D is what we're solving now. Now, which of the following is the most significant implications of obtaining TEOC text certificate for ARI silk? So this is a certification that would be done by some international organization or something for a particular silk, that is ARI silk, in global textile industry, right? So it allows Indian exporters to compete in high-end markets that prioritize chemical-free products. Now I'll tell you, this is a little bit technical and not many people will be able to know this, but this is how you derive an answer in the real UPSC exam. Now read the statement once again. Don't read statement 2. It allows Indian exporters to compete in high-end markets. Now, if Indian exporters have to compete in high-end markets, would they require some kind of certification or some kind of quality assurance by someone? They would certainly require it, because without quality assurance, who's going to buy these products? Now, this is what your mind should think. When you're buying a packet of biscuit, FASSI has assured it that the quality has been certified. That is why you're very safely going it and buying it, right? So now if TEOC text certification happens, wouldn't it inherently promote high-end markets, and that too in global world, right? It would certainly do. So you're like 50-50, right? I can go with 50-50 here. Now read statement 2. It confirms that ARI silk meets international safety environmental quality standards, enabling its entry into premium eco-conscious markets, right? And environmental. This is where your alarm bell should again ring. That when environmental and eco-conscious is being used 2 times here, wouldn't it be chemical-free products? It should be. So this is how you derive an answer in sitting in the exam hall itself. First, you know that certification. Okay, if certification is happening for anything, it is to promote trade in global markets, because global markets have higher quality assurance standards. So once that has been assured, now read the statement 2. A lot of environment word has been used, right? It meets international safety. Of course, if quality assurance is taking place, someone would be certifying it. That would be a basic parameters on which they would be certifying. Once this is done, you're pretty sure it also prioritizes chemical-free products. Because if it is not eco-conscious, then chemical products can also go into the global market. That is how you come to a conclusion that the correct answer here is C. Both the above answers are correct, right? So now 3 questions were solved purely based on logic. These were nothing like cramming up or mugging up. Yes, Vizhinjam port was little bit of a factual knowledge, which not many people would know it. But this is how you solve. You derive an answer from this, right? Now coming to the 52nd question in set D. An e-commerce revenue model where sellers have control over price but doesn't keep a product in stock. Instead transfers customer orders and shipment details to a third-party supplier who then supplies the goods directly to the customer is called, right? Many of you would not have heard this word, drop shipping model, right? It's very natural because we haven't heard about this. But we would certainly have heard about this term somewhere, affiliate revenue model, right? So affiliate, I'll come up with the definition of each of them. Then we'll discuss it later in detail. Now, transaction fee revenue model, we have again would have heard it. Agency revenue model, not much, but I'll tell you in which context would we have heard this. Now, not many would have heard it. But affiliate revenue model is generally what? It is referred to affiliate marketing. Or when someone promotes your good or someone promotes your product and they get a share of a particular amount if people log in via them, right? So all these big YouTubers and all have affiliate marketing links in the description. So that is how they operate. So we are pretty much sure that they control the prices, doesn't keep the product. So when it is coming about products in stock, it is talking about inventory, right? It is not talking about digital transactions or digital mediums or anything. And it is directly talking about pricing and all. So that means some way of indirect control over the inventory, right? So affiliate revenue model, 90% it cannot be. Now come to transaction fee revenue model. Now, have you heard about Visa, MasterCard? How do they operate? So for every transaction that is processed through their credit card or debit card, a certain amount is deducted from the vendor who's accepting the money, and that a percentage of that goes to as a transaction fee to Visa, MasterCard and all. So that is how they operate. And nowhere in that discussion comes about the product stock and instead transfer the customer order, shipment details. Nothing comes in that. So pretty sure even C doesn't work here. Now agency revenue model. Now when agency comes in, it is certainly a third party. Third party is involved when agency is coming. But agency revenue model is largely driven when it does a particular job for another company, and for that job they're earning money. So this also doesn't come. This also shouldn't come as a probable answer. So that means you're only left out with 2 options. That is, one second. So yeah, that is option A. So now this is again a 50-50 choice. Now many people would mark this and many people would not mark this. Some people would mark this because they know this cannot be the answer, right? These cannot be the answer. So just blindly go and mark it. Having a competitive exam intent, you should always try to go and mark whatever you feel is 50-50 correct. Because there are chances that 50-50 some other question would also possibly be the answer. So here you should have taken a chance. The correct answer here is drop shipping model. This is the correct answer. So what happens in drop shipping model is that the inventory and the end product is owned by the original supplier, while the third party supplier just has the instruction to control the prices. And whenever an order is placed to a third party, it initiates the order from the original supplier and delivers the commodity to the original buyer. So that is how the drop shipping model works. This is very famous in, say, Amazon e-commerce marketplace. And this time's economy UPSC paper is largely driven by e-commerce and commerce activities in Indian economy. So the correct answer here is A. Right? Now coming to the 53rd question. Which one of the following correctly represents the key sub-indices of Financial Inclusion Index of Reserve Bank of India? So Financial Inclusion Index is and was there in news for a really long time. So Financial Inclusion Index came around August of 2021. And from that, every year RBI has been releasing this index that is used to ensure the financial inclusion of the entire country of India, and also different states. How are they performing in relative indices? Now, this is a very technical question. Many people will know the sub indices of Financial Inclusion Index. So, if you don't know this answer, you don't have to attempt this, because if you attempt by taking any guess, you will get negative marks. And you're more likely to get negative marks than a positive mark in such questions, where all the options seems very similar. Right? So ऐसे क्वेश्चंस में हमें सिंपल सा अप्रोच यूज करना है. हमने चारों ऑप्शंस पढ़े एक करके A, B, C, D. If we are not coming up to a conclusion that this would be the proper answer, we skip this question directly. We mark this as a question mark. We skip it ahead. Right? So now coming to this question, the correct answer here is C. This is a very factual question, and the right answer here is C. So Axis as a weightage of 35%. Now coming to usage as a weightage of 45%. Now coming to quality has a weightage of about 20%. Extremely factual, not expected to be solved by all the people who are appearing for this exam. So we can comfortably believe that 90-95% of the people wouldn't have solved this, right? So, and there is no other scope for using different elimination techniques to get or derive this answer. Now coming to 54th question. Which one of the following best describe the key objectives of ONDC? So if we all have heard about news like UPI, who has laid the foundation for UPI, what is ONDC? Who is making ONDC? What was ONDC motivated from? So when UPI came in, Nandan Nilekani was one of the founders of this UPI initiative of cashless payment, digital transactions and all. In the year around 2018-19, when UPI got pretty much stabilized, that is where the monopolies of these big e-commerce giants like Amazon, Flipkart, Walmart, when all were operating in India, and the small kirana sellers were not able to get the due visibility in digital platforms. That is where this revolutionary idea of ONDC came in. So that is a brief gist about what exactly is ONDC. Now coming to the options that UPSC has given. This question is a very easy question if you know what is ONDC. To allow government control over all digital commerce transactions. Now just imagine, would any government operate like this, especially in India, which is a democratic government? Now, had India been following the socialistic principles that we used to follow in 1970s, 1960s, we could have still believed that this option would be probably correct, right? But in today's context, to allow government control over all the digital commerce transactions is highly unlikely. So your antenna should immediately cross this. This is probably not the correct answer. To replace private e-commerce players. Now, is it the job of ONDC to replace all the private commerce players? A bootstrapped ONDC? Can it replace a $800-900 billion company like Amazon that is investing heavily in India, creating foreign direct investment? No, it can't probably do that. So again, your antenna should say that this is not the correct answer. To break the dominance of large e-commerce players to enable interoperability across network. Now, I told you about UPI. So what did UPI do? UPI broke the monopoly of Visa and MasterCard, right? And of cash-based transaction, right? When UPI could replace credit card, debit card culture into phone-based payment system, wouldn't ONDC, which is led and driven by a similar initiative, focus on this to break the dominance of e-commerce giants like Amazon, Flipkart, Walmart, to give access to small kirana stores who can register on ONDC portal, handle the upstream and downstream of this supply chain, right? This is more likely. This is the most likely and indeed the correct option here. Let's read the fourth. When you come to a conclusion that statement 3, that is answer 3, option 3 is the correct answer, don't always tick it and go and mark it on the OMR sheet. Read the fourth statement. It can be the better correct option among the 4. Right? So always remember, these are the experiences that come along after giving multiple attempts, and having these silly mistakes done. To mandate UPI-based payment for all online transactions. This can never happen. Who is government to mandate all online transactions? Because there are multiple other channels as well. Rupee credit card, Rupee debit card, and all are also there. Even credit cards like Visa, MasterCard, and all also working in this domain. So this also cannot be the right answer. So the right answer here would be C. That is, to break the dominance of e-commerce platform to enable interoperability across networks. Right? So again, it is very much driven by you knowing the concept of ONDC. If you know the concept of ONDC, you're very likely to get this answer correct. Now, coming to the 55th question, that is, which one of the following statement about unified payment system and central bank digital currency is not correct? Remember the statement. The question asks about not correct. UPI is a real-time payment system, but digital rupee is akin to sovereign paper currency. Pretty much, UPI is what? UPI is like real-time transferring of money from one bank account to the other bank account. Right? That is what is UPI. And digital rupee is akin to sovereign currency. It is the exact currency note paper that we have in hand in a digital format. That is what is called a central bank digital currency. So this statement is correct. Remember, what is asked here is not correct. In case of UPI, the settlement of end users happen instantly as the money gets immediately debited or credited. But in digital rupees, there is no settlement, as wallet balance gets transferred to another wallet. This is also correct. In digital rupee, you're transferring money from one wallet to the other, right? And there is no settlement that is happening at that point. And UPI, what happens is that an X amount is debited from your money and Y amount is increased from the other person's money, bank account. This statement is also correct. If you are having any doubt in this statement, you can just hold on here, right? Now, UPI's transactions are recorded by banks and reflected in bank statements, but digital rupee, no data is captured in bank statement, and transactions are from one wallet to another. Now tell me, if you're transferring 10 rupees or maybe 100 rupees from one individual to the other individual, does it get captured in your bank statement? It doesn't, right? Only the UPI transaction, as it is happening from one bank to the other, it gets captured. So this statement is also true, right? Now, in both cases, UPI and digital rupee, the liability lies with user and the respective banks. Now, can you imagine, like digital rupee, who is the assurer that I own the liability of this rupees? Like, for example, if you take your 100 rupees notes to RBI has to owe and has to give you value of that 100 rupees, right? Because RBI is the assurer. The money that is printed by RBI is a liability for the RBI, and it is an asset to you because you can buy any commodity from it. But it is a liability for RBI because RBI has printed it. Now, can you tell that it is the liability of user? How can it be the liability? Liability will always lie with RBI and not with any user or respective bank. So this statement is incorrect. So the correct answer, not correct, would be D. That is, the liability for UPI and digital rupees always lies with RBI. Right? Now coming to the 56th question. Now this is a little bit trickier question. Which of the following statements about real world asset tokenizations are correct? Tokenization is the process of turning real world assets into digital tokens using blockchain technology. Now, this statement of what is written here is absolutely correct. This is the verbatim definition of real world asset tokenization. And tokenization refers to transferring of any digital or any commodity or anything that is tangible into digital medium, right? So tokenization is the process of turning real world assets. So what are real world assets? Like gold, real estate, and other commodities like grains or other things, and they are converted using blockchain technology. So this statement is correct. Tokenization of real-world assets offer 24/7 access, promoting financial inclusion. Now, the trading of these tokened real-world assets happen in 24/7 basis because there is no limit on them. Like any amount of commodity or anything can be transacted through internet. So when anything is done through internet, there is no limit over it or there is no fixed time over it. It is done 24/7. Now, tokenization of real-world assets will allow access to high-growth investment opportunities. This is absolutely true because once you have tokenized something, multiple people from different locations have access to this. So, for example, if Mumbai has some commodity, say a real estate property, that is tokenized. Now, people from US sitting in Miami or Florida can also access this commodity, right? There is no restriction that they cannot access it. And Gift City has started operationalization of these real-world assets in token format. And International Financial Service Authority, that is the regulatory body of this, is regulating this. So this statement is also correct. The correct answer here is option A. That is 1, 2, 3 are correct. Now coming to the 57th question. A bond whose proceeds are used only to finance, read the statement again, only to finance or refinance or combination of both environmental and social projects. Environmental and social projects is called. Now, everyone would think environmental, so it's very easy. It should be gold bonds, it should be green bonds. But UPSC always does this. This is a catch for those students who have not read this in detail. Now, environment is given, now social is given. UPSC has given green bonds and social bonds. So your head would always be spinning in either in the direction of green bonds or social bonds. But remember, this is UPSC. UPSC has this habit of playing tricks. And what it has done here is that it has comfortably given a union of both of this. That is sustainability bond. Environmental and social projects comes under sustainability aspect. So here, the correct answer would be sustainable bonds, not green bonds and not social bonds, and certainly not sovereign bonds, because we all know what is sovereign bonds. When government gives out its derivatives into the market or bonds into the market so that people or institutions can subscribe and in which government earns money so that they can do welfare spending and all. So sovereign bond is in no way correct here. But the doubt can significantly arise between green bond and social bonds. But always remember, environmental green bonds, social projects, social bonds. What is the intermixture of both? It is sustainability bond, right? Sustainability bond. That is an interconnection of both of these. So again, pretty much a lot of people would have got this incorrect only because they would have been confused between these two and they would have eliminated these two options. But yes, the correct answer here is C. That is sustainability bonds. Now coming to 58. Which of the following statement about M1 exchange role in MSME financing is or are correct? Now, whenever UPSC gives question, the question here is primarily about M1 exchange role, right? But UPSC is also given this MSME. UPSC is giving you certain hints in the direction so that you can give answer to this question on M1 exchange role. Now let's read this properly, right? So M1 exchange provides collateral-based loans to MSME. Now we all know that MSMEs are collateral strapped because they have cash flow issues. So they usually borrow on uncollateralized basis. Even if you hear CGT, MSME and other schemes, government always offers collateral-free loans to MSMEs. So this is highly unlikely, but don't come to a conclusion now. This is highly unlikely. Just put a dot there. Now M1 exchange facilities discounting of invoice and bill of exchange for MSMEs. M1 exchange facilitates discounting. Now, this is the primary role of M1 exchange. This is slightly factual, but this is indeed the primary role of M1 exchange. So M1 exchange, this is correct statement here. Right? Now coming to the third, M1 exchange functions as a credit rating agency for MSMEs. Do you ever think M1 exchange would function as a credit rating agency? It is highly unlikely. If M1 exchange provides this discounting and factoring business, would it ever function as a credit rating agency? Absolutely not. Credit rating agencies are, you have heard about Moody, ICRA, CARE, right? All these are credit rating agencies that provide rating. Fitch. All these are credit rating agencies that gives credit rating to a particular MSME or other institutions. So M1 Exchange is in no way dealt with these. Now, this statement is a bit tricky, right? And you're pretty sure that this is not the correct answer. This is not the correct answer. So start eliminating. Option 3 eliminated, option 3 eliminated. Now go with option 2. So you're pretty sure that option 2 should be there. And here, there's no option 2. So straight away go, mark this as the correct answer. And for this, you need to be very sure that statement 2 is the correct answer here, right? So that is how it is. So 58, we are done. The questions on economy are slightly on the easier side if you compare to 2023 paper, where the questions were a little bit difficult. The 24 paper was a little bit more difficult. The 25 was slightly moderate, but here the questions are slightly easier. Especially this question. This is direct term that is coming out of the newspapers and other economy articles, right? So now coming to the 57th question, which one of the following best describe the crowding out effect in the context of fiscal policy? Crowding out effect and fiscal policy, right? So we know crowding out effect, we know crowding in effect. Now here we have to derive an answer for this, right? So a situation where private investments increase due to increased government spending. Do you think it is crowding out? How would this be possible? How is this possible? When government is borrowing more, how is it led to increased private investment if government borrows more? So the basic fundamental here is that if government is borrowing, the government is borrowing at a certain rate. So the amount of capital left in the market to give it to private investment or private players is very little, right? If there are 100 units and government takes away 50 units, the capital left out for private investment is only 50 units. Now in this 50 units, there will be a rat race. So whoever provides higher interest, that means if I'm ready to pay 7.5, if I'm ready to pay 8%, the bank will give it to me, right? And what does all these private investment want? Cheaper interest rates so that they can invest. That is how this entire system works. So now here, this is highly unlikely that this is not the correct answer. This is how you should operate in between the exam. I know here it is absolutely incorrect, but in exam, you should operate that this is highly unlikely. A situation where government borrowing lead to higher interest rate, which reduces private investment. This is exactly what I just told you about crowding out effect. So go away, straight, mark this answer correct, but never mark it on the OMR sheet. Read the other statements. These two statements have to be equally read. A situation where an increase in taxes led to increased private sector investment. If taxes are getting increased, will the private sector investment ever increase? This is a contradictory statement. This can never be correct. A situation where government spending has no impact on aggregate demand. This is again highly unlikely because government spending indirectly lead to increasing aggregate demand until and unless if it is a wartime situation or like COVID-like situation where direct financial benefits had to be provided to citizens. Otherwise, government spending will indirectly lead to aggregate demand increasing, right? So this question is also done. The correct answer here is B. Now coming to the 61st question. This question is directly derived from Ahmedabad AI 171 crash that has happened, right? So the entire question is derived on that. Aviation hull insurance. Now hull, what is a hull? We have heard about hull in shipping industry and all. It is basically the foundation of any vehicle like a bigger vessel or even an aeroplane, the frame that is upon which it is made. So aviation hull covers the physical aircraft, including the body, engine and onboard equipments. Now, there can be a confusion because UPSC, whenever it gives including, it often tends to be wrong. But here, this statement is correct. The aviation hull insurance includes body, engine, and onboard equipments. Now coming to the second statement, under the Montreal Convention adopted in 1990, over 130 countries, again over, UPSC is giving you a hint that this can be probably correct, including Indian Airlines, is strictly liable for paying compensation to families nominees of deceased passengers without requiring family to prove false. Right? This was there in news. This was an Indian Express news that had come soon after the AI 171 crash, and this was there in the explainer section of it. Right? So this statement is also correct, and the correct answer here for the 61st question here is C. That is, both the statements are correct. So this was slightly technical. If you don't know this, you can skip this question. So this is the second question that is coming in the line that can probably be skipped by an aspirant if they're finding it difficult in the exam situation. Now coming to the 62nd question, that is, which of the following statement about crowdfunding? Remember, crowdfunding, we all would have heard it multiple times in different places. Crowdfunding मतलब जनता से पैसा कलेक्ट करना, लोगों से पैसा कलेक्ट करना, अलग अलग फार्मर प्रोड्यूस ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस अपने अपने पैसे मिला के दे आर क्रिएटिंग अ क्राउड फंड मल्टीपल लोगों से. आर्मस्ट्रॉन्ग फार्मिंग का एग्जांपल तो हम सबने सुना ही होगा, राइट? क्राउड फंडिंग इज सॉलिसिटेशन ऑफ फंड्स, स्मॉल अमाउंट. सॉलिसिटेशन मतलब एग्रीगेशन, कलेक्शन ऑफ फंड्स फ्रॉम different sources, multiple investors through web-based platforms or social network sites for a specific project, right? This can be pretty much true here. There is nothing too complex over here. It is pretty much true. SMEs, small medium enterprises, are able to raise funds at low cost of capital without undergoing rigorous procedures. Now, if you go to a bank, what will a bank ask? Bank will ask you collateral. Now, does people have collateral so that they can give it to any bank or any particular thing and borrow money, take credit? It is highly unlikely, right? For small farmers or marginal farmers to do this, or to do social gathering or other projects, the bank doesn't give you loan very easily, right? Either the interest rate is on a higher side or someone has to take a personal loan. So that is where crowdfunding comes into help. It enables individuals to take money, and especially small medium enterprises, and they're able to raise fund at low cost of capital without undergoing the rigorous procedure, because this is mostly given on the basis of trust and goodwill, right? Trust and goodwill. So these are the two dominant factors that guide crowdfunding. So this statement is also correct. The correct answer here is answer statement 1, statement 2. So both are correct, right? So this is a basic funda that we all would have heard in different places in newspapers and other things, also in ethics case studies and all. So UPSC is asking simple questions that we can relate to, and we can directly connect it to some of the other concept, right? Now coming to the 63rd question on the different committees and their objectives, right? Now the answer here is slightly factual. So if you haven't got this correct in the real exam, don't worry at all, because this was on a tougher side. So don't expect that all the 100% of people or even 90% of the people would have got this right. So the correct answer here is D, and I'll tell you the reason. R.N. Malhotra Committee was formed in 1993, right? And IRDAI, Insurance Regulatory Development Authority, was constituted in 1999. Right? So this is highly unlikely. Comprehensive reforms of information, insurance sector. This is not correct here. This is based on some other committee report. Now coming to L.C. Gupta Committee, preparing for roadmap for introduction of derivative trade in India. It is true. L.C. Gupta Committee was constituted by SEBI for derivative markets, that is futures and options. Right, and it was constituted in the year 1996. So again, pretty factual, not expected to do. So this statement is correct. Now Urjit Patel Committee. So the only probable statement we as aspirants could have eliminated in this is this one, the third statement, and I'll tell you why. Urjit Patel Committee. So we all know that after Raghuram Rajan, Urjit Patel was the RBI governor, and there was a dispute that which eventually led him to resign before his completion of 3-year term. We all know all that important factual information. So we also know that when Raghuram Rajan was the governor of RBI, Urjit Patel was a deputy governor who was handling the monetary policy aspect of it. Right? So indeed, during the time of 2013, Urjit Patel committee was constituted, but it was not for preparing the roadmap to reform the housing sector. It was constituted to reform the monetary policy framework. Now, we all have read about Monetary Policy Committee. The Monetary Policy Committee was constituted on the recommendation of Urjit Patel Committee. Right? In 2016, when it was constituted, it was on the recommendation made by Urjit Patel in 2013 for reforming the monetary policy system. And that is where the repo rate became the basis for deciding what will be the benchmark rate and the bank rate for the entire system. So this can be eliminated. Now come to YC Malegaon Committee report. Yes, this is again a factual, very factual statement that has been made here. To prepare a roadmap for reforms of microfinance sector in India, it was constituted by RBI. This is indeed true. So the correct answer here is 2 and 4 are correct. Right? This is the correct answer here. So this was slightly factual, a third kind of question that we could have left it in an exam, because remembering all these and taking negative marks, it's better to leave them. And options, if at all option 3 was to be eliminated, you are still left with 2 options, 2 and this thing. And so it's a little bit difficult on a slightly difficult pedestal. So you could have comfortably left this question. Now coming to the 64th question, right? So consider the following statement about non-banking financial companies. NBFCs cannot accept demand deposit. So NBFCs are registered under Companies Act, and they can only accept what? Time deposit. So they cannot accept demand deposit is true, because if NBFC start accepting demand deposit, what is the difference between NBFC and bank? There is no difference if NBFC start accepting demand deposit, right? So it cannot accept demand deposit. It can only accept time deposit, like FDs and all. Now all NBFCs operating in India have registered with RBI. Now, can this statement ever be true? There are many NBFCs that are operating under the purview of SIDBI, operating under the purview of SEBI, and other institutions like NABARD and all. So all NBFCs are not registered with RBI. So this statement is wrong. NBFCs form part of payment and settlement system and can issue check drawn on itself. Now, if NBFC start issuing check drawn on itself, that is similar to a credit card, where it is giving credit to anyone, and any person can swipe it and can use credit. This is also not correct here. NBFCs cannot issue checks on itself, right? It can only accept time deposit, and time deposit is very similar to FD. It is indeed FD. Now, deposit insurance facilities for deposit insurance credit guarantee, DICGC, which is up to 5 lakhs if bank run happen, is not available to depositors of NBFC. This statement is absolutely true, because NBFCs are registered under Companies Act and not under Banking Regulation Act and RBI Act, right? And second thing is that as NBFCs operate outside the purview of DICGC, therefore the interest rates that NBFCs offer are slightly higher than banks. That is why people tend to deposit their money in NBFCs, which in turn give them higher returns. So the correct answer here is A. That is A, 1 and 4 is the correct answer here. Standard definition of NBFCs, whoever knows NBFCs can easily solve this answer. This is a pretty straightforward answer. So now coming to the 65th question. Multidimensional poverty index has been asked. This was very much in news. Niti Aayog have brought about a report and all. So again, let's solve this. Consider the following statement. Multidimensional poverty index, MPI, is calculated using Alkire-Foster methodology. Very factual question. Not many people would know this. Hasn't been mentioned in a lot of places, would have been mentioned in Indian Express Explain series, but not in generally mentioned in a lot of places. Right? So it is indeed calculated using Alkire-Foster method, and It is the correct answer. It is the correct statement here. Now, MPI calculation by Niti Aayog has total of 12 indicators. We know that Niti Aayog does it on 12 indicators. UNDP does it on 10 indicators. So whoever has read about MPI and Niti Aayog's multidimensional index report, we clearly know that this statement is correct. Now come to maternal health and banking account are common indicators in MPI of Niti Aayog and MPI of UNDP. So Niti Aayog and UNDP uses maternal health and banking account is the question. So UNDP has 10 different classifications. Niti Aayog, in addition to these 10, have added 2 more. Those are maternal health and bank account. So these are the 2 in addition that Niti Aayog has added, which UNDP presently doesn't handle. So this statement is incorrect. So the correct answer here is A. Right? So 65th answer is also done. So this was again straightforward question directly from MPI. Had we known about UNDP, Niti Aayog, we would be pretty easily able to do this answer and comfortably able to solve this because everyone knows these 2 are the new addition and exactly what are the weightage given to these 2 new additions as well. So I hope this has been going well, and these are the set of economy questions that we had to solve. So the questions were slightly on the easier side. Roughly 3 questions were on a difficult side, and we have solved them all with logical conclusion of why and how to derive answers to it. And I hope this session was amazing and informative for you.